This week's episode was brought to you by Michael Hodge, David Abrams, Kyle Tansel, Justin Smith, Nick Schoenig, and Chelsea Anderson. Thank you, Michael Hodge, David Abrams, Kyle Tansel, Justin Smith, Nick Schoenig, and Chelsea Anderson. It's with the generous support of listeners like you that our psychically enhanced rabbit spy army keeps stocked up on enough corn snacks and cheese to continue our clandestine operation of keeping surveillance on the amphibious cyborg overlord forces who struggle tirelessly to control our destiny and leaking their secret, despicable plans through our decentralized channels and keeping Earth from falling into the hands of scaly despots one day at a time. If you'd like to join the fight or just hear the second half of this episode, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you unlimited special access to this entire uncensored double-length episode, but our entire library of top-secret double-length episodes with enough information inside of them to drive 7 normal human beings crazy. But not only that, I'll send you 5x5 high-quality vinyl stick of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art. I'm sorry, they're always a little bit late, but I promise they're coming. And more instantly than that, the secret keys to our Discord server where we coordinate our efforts in real time against not just the amphibians, but their subordinate network of insurgents that occasionally tries to infiltrate our ranks until we discover who they are and return them back to sender with a bucket full of fortune cookies. In this week's episode, we continue following the breadcrumb trail of clues within the recently released tranche of Epstein files that elucidate both Epstein and his friends' private thoughts, as well as the evil, science fiction-worthy master plan that Epstein seems to have been working on prior to his death, or disappearance into hiding if you believe that. While many others are digging into specific crimes, we're going to focus on underlying philosophy and motive. In the first half of the show, we discussed Epstein's ongoing obsession with eugenics, buying babies, how the elites really feel about minorities, you can probably guess, and what it has to do with determining psychic ability. In the second half of the show, we explore the 5 stages of classification that Gino used to determine somebody's psychic level, Epstein's strategy for stealing Rupert Sheldrake's work on psychic phenomena when bribery and seduction wouldn't work, finding the overlap between humans and plants, and finally, how all of Epstein's efforts seem to have culminated in setting up charities that turn into government mandates when an emergency decides to happen. So buckle up, good luck, thank you, and enjoy the show. What time is it when an elephant sits on a fence?
What time?
Time to get a new fence. Why'd the dog go meow?
Because it was mentally deranged.
He was learning a new language.
That's dumb.
That ain't right.
What happens when geese bang heads?
What?
They get goosebumps.
I like that one.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Who's there?
Cereal.
Cereal who?
Cereal who?
Cereal soon.
All right.
Are these just regular jokes?
I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, I like this one. What do tightrope walkers eat? As in the profession of walking upon a tightrope.
A balanced diet?
Yes, you read ahead.
Ah.
What's the best way to find out an elephant's age?
What?
Look at his driver's license.
Oh my god.
All right, these were jokes I found in the Epstein files.
Ah.
No, they weren't.
They were. It says underneath the section for the kids. It was just in one of the emails.
Oh my god.
All right, that's pretty good.
I like the last one.
I don't get it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just string you along for 6.5 years about the elites growing us like corn and impaling us upon spikes with mayonnaise for an after-lunch snack, or turned into so many delectable syrups, finally blended into an ambrosial slurry by reptilian endocrinologists at their mixer parties. Nay, we deploy to the informational battlefield equipped with red night vision goggles that see right through amphibians amphibious deception fields to bear down on their email server with lasers capable of destroying lies. Because this week, we're embarking on part 2 of our raid through the most unbelievably science fiction-oriented, big brain idea planning structure of Epstein's operations, which, had I not seen it myself, are so unbelievably vast and cartoonishly evil, it's no wonder people think we've been invaded by aliens disguised as people with egg-shaped penises.
Ew.
Yummy.
I guess that is such a popular piece of information because it made him personally uncomfortable to talk about it.
Yeah, he was humiliated.
Yeah, it was the one thing that the police psychologist is like, that breaks his, like, perfect armor around his personality. Like, you can get inside his head if you...
You have a weird penis.
Yeah, dude.
That's it.
It's funny how first graders know to attack that first, too, you know?
Your wiener sucks.
Haha, you have a tiny wee-wee.
Yeah.
It's like, pff, that's what took down the supervillain. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, also known as Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by our active duty officers, the doggy at the dimensional doorway, Mori-sama.
I'm gonna need to see some ID. Also, the cover charge is $5.
The solar mare of the sacred Pyramidion, Heka Astra.
Hello.
And the Templar of the Transcendental Trinity, Tim, the household heretic hacker. You know, at first I really thought this was about eating babies and stealing the part of people's souls that are made of money, but I learned it's so much more than that. When you're running an international blackmail ring with nefarious ambitions beyond the scope of human understanding, it's not really about the money or controlling the destiny of humanity, but about the friends you made along the way. Because when you're Jeffrey Epstein, that's the secret that makes everything work. The magic of friendship.
Is this a real picture of him eating hot dogs with Diddy? Because that's too
I'm telling you that they're like, pretend they're straight as hell, but secretly they're kissing each other.
You know me.
Oh my
Now,
god.
Kith.
Oh, yeah. Great.
It's too funny.
What I like about this image of Jeffrey eating a hot dog is that Jeffrey is so much of a criminal mastermind and a controller of the universe that the hot dog actually bends into his mouth.
Right.
Mustard.
Mustard. Mustard.
Like, as he approaches the hot dog, the wiener, like, bends towards his mouth. You know what I mean?
Yep. He's the Ubermensch.
He's just like...
It's a bending of space and time.
We'll get to that.
And wieners.
What else is... That's the same thing.
Is mustard on the hot dog like a symbol of the golden phallus of Osiris?
I was thinking of that one song, Master, Master, you're the
What
one
about
that
corn
I
dogs?
master.
Corn dog.
I mean, come on. Who doesn't just love wieners in their mouth? I
I
love
love
corn dogs.
wieners in my mouth.
I love... Oh, my God. They are gifts from heaven.
I am a professional. Okay.
You're a professional what? Say it.
Wienermancer.
Straight from the horse's mouth, I guess.
That's settled. All right.
Yeah. So Jeffrey Epstein had a vision that wasn't just a mosaic of different scientific interests, such as eugenics, parapsychology, spirituality, neuroscience, physics, or even politics. These highly specialized areas of interest were all threads that were woven together into the fabric that was his integrated vision of the future. He didn't just have all of these different scientific interests, he actively pursued and funded both the research and the implementation of these interests into the fabric of reality, which created waves across the globe. And we're still seeing it today.
It's so much more than just trafficking people.
I never thought I'd ever hear those words, but it's true. So within the documents, these things are brought together succinctly and clearly, which when you zoom out to see the big picture, reveals a coherent and horrifying plan that ties all of this back to the discussion that we had in our last episode. The ideology that he and others like him embraced in the shadows. His obvious fascination with genetics, and more pointedly, the
Perfecting of the human genome.
was clearly connected to his research into consciousness. At the 2006 scientific conference called Confronting Gravity, which was funded by Epstein himself, Epstein stated that he wanted to talk about perfecting the human genome and was
Fascinated with how certain traits were passed on and how that could result in superior humans.
You know what, Gravity? I'm not afraid anymore.
Is anyone being reminded of Ubermensch yet?
Yes.
I never read Nietzsche, but my mom said I could do anything I want.
Wasn't Ubermensch a Nazi ideology?
No, it is Nietzsche, like he was saying.
It was
by
co-opted.
Nietzsche.
Yeah, it was
Nietzsche,
co-opted and turned into something that wasn't.
Oh, I see. So they stole it from Nietzsche.
Well, it's even
Nietzsche.
deeper lore than that because it's his sister after he became sick and like couldn't take care of himself. She like would rewrite his and release it and co-opted it herself. And the parts that were co-opted by the Nazis were like the stuff that she was doing.
You know what? This is why we can't have nice things, okay?
Yeah.
It was one of those things where you're supposed to develop an indomitable will that's in alignment with what we would call our true will. And then Hitler and his buddies come along and they're like, what does this have to do with the collective racial destiny of the entire German race? And we are the Übermensch, as you can see. And they just kind of made it into their own thing. So
Yeah, the original way that he intended it is actually extremely positive. And you can find the same kind of stuff in all of the wisdom traditions, really, if you think about it. Like even Carl Jung, people like to say, the individuation process, like all of this stuff is connected when it comes down to just becoming whole. We could go into like the alchemical tradition as well, turning lead into gold. It's all the same different name.
Yeah, it really sucks that these things which actually do have like genuine well-meaning for the sake of wholeness or holistic growth get co-opted by people with evil intentions.
it's actually a historical pattern. Like, peace-loving religions are usually conquered by warlike ones who can't come up with ideas themselves, and they co-opt the old symbolism as a means of power. What we're going to be seeing today is a lot like that, but a little sneakier. As we're going to see, Jeffrey Epstein was actually a lot deeper than anyone on the outside could have suspected. He had a lot of big ideas going on, but what was his master plan? What was he working towards, actually? We did a lot of digging. We think we found out.
So, as we brought up last episode, this interest that he had in genetics wasn't abstract. It was somewhat of an open secret to anyone who listened to him talk in these circles. Same as his plans for the insemination ranch that was in New Mexico. The idea for that ranch itself stemmed from the conceptual repository for germinal choice. This is an actual sperm bank that was located in Escondido, California, meant to stock only the semen of Nobel laureates that desired to strengthen the gene pool. So this was an actual operating facility, sometimes referred to as
the Genius Sperm Bank
or Nobel Sperm Bank.
Jared Lanier, a computer scientist, futurist, and composer, spoke in depth of his interactions with Jeffrey Epstein and how his ideas were pushed into the academic world. Jared Lanier openly opposes
Cybernetic totalism,
as he calls it,
which is a cataclysm brought on when computers become ultra-intelligent masters of matter and life.
Also known as the singularity.
So Janner or Yanner Lanier also observed that Epstein used dinner parties to screen potential candidates to bear his children.
What? No, it's true. In terms of getting girls, and in some cases women, to bear his children, some evidence can be found in EFTA 009673797, which seems to be an email chain between Epstein and one of his young victims, who was recounting how after years of financial manipulation, culminated in an offer to buy her baby.
So the email says, quote, "It was only after years of you making all kinds of voluntary promises and commitments that I started to believe it was okay and that I could rely on your support. You made many unusual offers. You offered to buy my baby 6 months into our relationship, and 6 years later you offered to support my next boyfriend. Do you remember that? It's probably not in any emails either, and I understand nobody would believe it," unquote.
Turns out it is in the emails. But that is a hint that there are channels that we're not privy to that are not in the Epstein files.
This is also just like his vacation email that they released, right?
Yeah, it's just like his side email, you know what I mean? Anyway, and despite her name being redacted, the victim in question here is probably Virginia Roberts Giuffre. I can't say her name correctly. She gave a similar account in a telephone interview transcript during the Edwards versus Epstein trial. It goes as thus.
Quote, "About 6 months prior to leaving, he came up with a proposition that I thought was really disgustingly sick. He offered me a mansion and some of his money every month. I forget what he called it, a monthly income of what he made, to bear one of his children. The proposition was that if anything ever happened between Jeffrey and I, that I would have to sign my child over to him basically, and that the child would be his in Ghislaine's, and I would be looking after it as long as nothing happened between Jeffrey and I," unquote.
Oh, what?
Give me a firstborn child.
That's actually exactly what it is, you know? It begs the question, what the hell did Epstein and Maxwell have planned for Giuffre's child? The media would have us believe Epstein's evil was purely carnal, a matter of criminal appetites. But it obviously went deeper than that. For whatever horrific things Epstein enjoyed in private, molesting our collective genetic destiny seems like it was an ongoing matter of business. But why?
Epstein said, quote, gene expression can be stimulated with the right environment and then enhanced with evolution. End quote.
With evolution!
I'm starting to think maybe some people didn't fully understand the darkness that lays below a statement like that. Also, we've included all of the EFTAs that we're referencing, so even if we don't say them, they're in there. They're in the show notes.
Quote, luminaries at Mr. Epstein's St. Thomas Conference in 2006 included Mr. Hawking and the Caltech theoretical physicist Kip S. Thorne. One participant at that conference, which was ostensibly on the subject of gravity, recalled that Mr. Epstein wanted to talk about perfecting the human genome. Mr. Epstein said that he was fascinated with how certain traits were passed on and how that could result in superior humans. Mr. Epstein appears to have gained entry into the scientific community through John Brockman, a literary agent whose best-selling science writers include Richard Dawkins, Daniel Goleman, and Jared Diamond. Mr. Brockman did not respond to requests for comment for 2 decades. Mr. Brockman presided over a series of salons that matched his scientist authors with potential benefactors. The so-called billionaires' dinners apparently became a model for the gathering at Mr. Epstein's East 71st Street townhouse, which included some of the same guests. End quote.
So I'm just going to say here that John Brockman has written some very interesting things regarding the death of humanity and mankind that seem to complement Epstein's ideologies in pretty horrifying ways. John Brockman actually played a huge part in helping Epstein to make connections within the scientific community that resulted in research funding from Epstein. Brockman's conferences, also funded by Epstein, were very exclusive, and I think we're going to circle back around to that.
For anyone familiar with the history of the 20th century, perfecting the human race through genetic manipulation was a popular idea prior to World War II and is broadly known as eugenics. In the years leading up to the war, over 30 states, starting with Indiana, had active, mandatory sterility programs for the feeble-minded, quote-unquote, epileptics, the mentally ill, criminal, or otherwise socially undesirable, which, as you could imagine, had a disproportionately unfair amount of its evil directed at minority communities. The U.S. Supreme Court's decision of Buck versus Bell, 1927, upheld Virginia's sterilization law, establishing a constitutional precedent that facilitated widespread implementation. California was actually the most active state in this regard, reporting over 20,000 forced sterilizations before World War II, most targeting vulnerable Latino communities. It has long been observed that the Nazis actually got some of their ideas from the United States in this regard, but they didn't have computers yet. Epstein did.
So Epstein saw neuroscience as a necessary bridge between his ideas of eugenics and superior consciousness. He was able to utilize AI research to connect these ideas even further. In our extended part of the last episode, we found and read a very lengthy email from the renowned German cognitive scientist Joscha Bach sent to Epstein.
The one about Ashkenazi Jews having differently shaped souls than everyone else, that one?
Yep, and Epstein must have been a fan of his goofy ideas because he supported Joscha Bach's micro-psi project, which was driven with an underlying focus of using AI as a method for building unified theories of cognition.
Epstein even paid for Joscha Bach's immigration fees. When I went looking, his project micro-psi sounds like a rebranding of the idea that Ben Gortzel was frustrated with Epstein for seeming lukewarm about years earlier. The idea of virtually living creatures. Essentially, placing an AI agent inside of a body, which is also placed inside of an environment, and given similar limitations and verbs that we do. Like, imagine if The Sims were conscious and alive. Could you make him work harder if you poked them with tiny digital sticks? That sort of thing. In Gortzel's email, practical purposes were not mentioned, but Joscha Bach's reasoning seemed to be that unless AI is capable of emotion and intuition, well, it won't really be capable of human-level reasoning. It's not fun to poke an AI with a stick unless it has an ass that feels the poke. That being said, it is interesting to consider that human-level reasoning may be due to our built-in limitations, which Joscha Bach breaks down along racial lines in various email correspondences with Jeffrey. Warning, it's offensive.
Oh, and I get to read it. Perfect.
I just think you need to know how these people talk in private, because
All right, everybody, get ready to clip this.
That's why we're gonna make Mari read it.
Quote, no worry. If I understand correctly, you are suggesting that there are layers 1 through n. Let's call them L1 through Ln. There are times T1 minus Tn, and then conjecture that changing the time correlations by genetic switch or other method. You might be able to make blacks smarter by changing the time for motor layer development and changing the time for other layers.
What the f?
Exactly. I looked up the statistics. Black kids in the US have slower cognitive development and never catch up, which the study, of course, attributed to social factors without any evidence, and they had faster motor development. I suspect this means their brains are slower at learning high-level concepts because the low-level structures are optimized for a shorter time. But they will keep the lead in motor development because it is easier to learn, and they have more time and attention to practice once they get the structures in place.
This is Yosha Bach?
Yes.
Okay.
It could also be that they have an additional set of learning directives in place that adapts them better to a more hunting, running style of life, whereas the Europeans had to adapt for identifying long-term seasonal patterns, delayed gratification for agriculture, etc. Unquote.
This is how these shiny, never say anything wrong in public, do-gooders with the smiley faces and the... This is how they talk behind closed doors!
Oh, the people that want equity and like fairness and equality.
Yes! Okay, Yosha's unguarded thoughts about women are even more telling.
All right, now we get to bash on the whammons. Quote, I suspect gender differences are mostly motivational, i.e., we have a reward system for all the different social and cognitive needs, which makes us receive different kinds of pleasure and pain, thereby pay attention and learn. You cannot learn what does not attract your attention. Women tend to find abstract systems, conflicts, and mechanisms intrinsically boring. Most women in computer science do not write programs because they enjoy solving puzzles, but because they want to help people, get approval, etc. There are almost no women in math because it does not help people or yield social attention, unquote.
Yosha then muses on why Asians are so smart before moving on.
Quote, IQ is not the only meaningful difference. Chinese pay an inordinate amount of attention to authority. I suspect historically, the authorities tended to kill them a lot if they did not. Jews tend to be intellectually independent and anti-authoritarian, which might make them creative and inventive in ways that are hard to find in Asia. At the moment, I think speed and quality of brain development plus motivational system are the key to understanding both mind and individual differences. Important part of human language might be the result in a motivational need to discover or invent grammatical structure, which as a side effect makes us interested in music, unquote.
Now, it seems like Jeffrey's replies have been mostly removed from this conversation, but based on the poor spelling and grammatical structure, it seems the next block of text was not removed, and I think is Jeffrey's reply. That's based purely on just how much I've read of his writing.
It's like so up looking.
It just looks totally different from the other guy, and a lot of his other messages are written this way. It says,
quote, I myself believe that African music, Western music, Chinese music are a window into the structure of those layers. Western rigid, African primitive, Chinese nature-based. I believe that symphonic movements best describe your layering. They open with a basic simple melody. After it is learned, it is repeated and developed, inverted, distorted, related, etc. The development stage take a long time. Then there is a recapitulation of the whole and its inter and intra actions. African music has lots of beats and little development. No accident. It mirrors their learning process. End quote. And yeah, that's like all spelled horribly. That's why it sounds like that.
Everything he writes is like that.
Yeah, and he sounds like an ass.
At least he didn't say it, "K, cool."
I mean, this...
You mean like he usually does?
Yeah, half of his emails are like a Zoomer replying. It's too busy like playing Minecraft.
You could tell this guy's written some 4chan posts before.
Absolutely.
Like all those wacky, crazy thoughts. You're like, how does anyone come up with this? That's who's coming up with them. After just got done drinking blood and like jerking each other off on the golf course. Like he's like on 4chan sharing his stupid thoughts.
But now it gets darker.
All right. Then the conversation slowly dips into the usefulness of fascism.
Is anybody really surprised at this point, given all the other stuff that they write?
Oh, we're so smart and above everyone else. So I guess the guy replies back, quote, the radical idea of treating individuals in a society as cells and the society itself is a well-organized organism is fascism, of course. Probably the most efficient and rationally stringent way of governance, if someone could pull it off in a sustainable way. And if it is aggressive and expansive, its efficiency makes it a virus that everybody will want to stomp out.
You know what this reminds me of is Metropolis.
Oh yeah, how can we fine-tune everything and make it a machine?
Yeah.
When we're not meant to be a machine. Well, that's the only, everyone must conform if it is to work. Everyone has to follow the rules exactly. There's no room for deviation or individualism or anything.
Yosha continues.
Fascism makes romantic do-gooders like me very uncomfortable, and the general public will not be willing to consider it. I rather like the treatment fascism gets in the Amazon series, The Man in the High Castle. Okay. Which explores what would have happened if the Germans and Japanese had won the war. A society that tries to function as a brutal and ruthlessly efficient machine, eliminating all social and evolutionary slack. It is very dark, but not a flat caricature of pointless evil for its own sake. Hyland's late book, Starship Troopers, explores fascism too, but unlike Philip K. Dick, he does not see it as a form of insanity, but as the most desirable order. I find your political incorrectness very fascinating. In the beginning, I thought it as a form of costly signaling, but now I think you are just simply entirely unconstrained in your thoughts. How did you manage in your youth? Did you get in trouble, or did you just keep your thoughts to yourself?
End quote.
I kept my thoughts to myself.
Me too.
As we explored in the last episode, Epstein donated $30 million to Harvard University's program for evolutionary dynamics to study
How game theory can be used to answer some of the basic evolutionary questions.
and specifically he held a long-running relationship with George Church, who played a major role in researching genetics and human behavior. Epstein also held a position at Harvard's Mind, Brain, and Behavior Committee, where he would question why altruistic behavior exists in Darwinian society at all. The hope being to ultimately connect mathematics, evolution, and human social behavior into a unified conceptual framework. Marvin Minsky, MIT's AI lab co-founder, collaborated with Epstein. Minsky was no stranger to Epstein's Island. He actually headed conferences there on Little St. James Island. Epstein's foundation hoped that AI research would
Morph into a mind reader of sorts.
I mean, this has happened. I've even pointed out several times before that we are already at that point in technology where your micro expressions can be read to decide if you reacted positively or negatively to the ads that are presented to you in your algorithm. So Epstein's foundation proposed these mind-reading AIs would work off of
Predetermined search patterns and relevant keywords to automatically serve up what the user is looking for.
So this all sounds very sterile for someone who is also supposedly interested in cosmic consciousness and talks about spirituality and philosophy with the likes of Deepak Chopra. However, a cosmic consciousness framework is actually necessary for any of this to be taken further, since consciousness itself is fundamental to reality. And let's be real, there's a lot that science doesn't know about it still. It's not far-fetched to explore cosmic consciousness when you think about how classic physics inevitably lands in a zone where it has to draw upon quantum physics, mathematical miracles, and the unresolved theory of everything, which is not really unlike the concept of the ineffable spirit, magic, source consciousness, or Heka if you're an Egypt nerd like me. But just with a bunch of nerds using verbose ways to describe their woo-woo. And don't get me wrong, I love these topics, whether you want to explain it like a children's book or be obsessively pedantic about it. But I guess if you want to play God, like Epstein and select others did, then you need to not only possess a God complex, but you're also going to need a whole crew of highly specialized experts, intellectuals, the nerdiest of the nerds, scientists, and spiritual bigwigs to lay all of that groundwork for you.
Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's lawyer, discusses what it was like at Harvard, where he was a professor, when Epstein spoke to his cadre of scientists. The following comes from the New York Times article in 2019 about Jeffrey wanting to seed the human race with his DNA.
Quote, Alan M. Dershowitz, a professor emeritus of law at Harvard, recalled that at a lunch Mr. Epstein hosted in Cambridge, Massachusetts, he steered the conversation toward the question of how humans could be improved genetically. Mr. Dershowitz said that he was appalled, given the Nazis' use of eugenics to justify their genocidal effort to purify the Aryan race. Yet, the lunches persisted. Everyone speculated about whether these scientists were more interested in his views or more interested in his money, said Dr. Dershowitz, who was one of Mr. Epstein's defense lawyers in the 2008 case. End quote.
So Epstein's plan needed some very important pieces to start clicking together in order to kick it off to full speed ahead. So let's get into what those puzzle pieces are. We know it's genetic enhancement, mapping the brain's mechanics via neuroscience, expansion of consciousness, psi phenomena, cosmic consciousness, and transhumanism by way of technology, especially AI, and all of these things had to advance and become integrated. Cybernetics is the study of control and communication in both animals and machines, as well as consilience. And these are two terms that not only come to mind here, but they're actually referenced directly many times in his email correspondences. So consilience.
Hey, what'd you call me?
So consilience is when multiple interdisciplinary fields of study converge and integrate in such a way that it cross-validates truth and points to a conclusion through that unity of knowledge. Basically, this bolsters the reliability of the result in such a way that the conclusion is more robust than if it were to be done in a single field of study. Consilience basically means a jumping together of knowledge. So this is essentially what Epstein was doing. He was cherry picking across various fields of study to reach his end goal. This grand scheme required research into everything from AI models, human cognition, Tibetan monk brainwaves, although apparently Epstein was largely unimpressed with those studies. It also needed the so-called perfection of the human genome, selective breeding, focusing on Ashkenazim paternal haplogroups, like we talked about in detail last episode, and many, many other academic studies, which were proposed, funded, or even closely directed by Jeffrey Epstein himself. Epstein didn't even keep these interests separate. According to many accounts, he would openly discuss cosmic consciousness with AI researchers, genetic perfection with physicists, neuroscience with geneticists, and it goes on and on.
He's just planting little seeds in their brain.
Quote, from Jeffrey Epstein, Sunday, April 13th, 2014, to Kagan Jerome. Steve Coslin suggested that you had done some work on blue eyes and intelligence. I will be up and Harvard 21 through 25. Would love to see you and hear more. End quote.
Wait, what's all this about blue eyes? Seriously, the blue eyes thing too?
Bunch of Nazis, bro.
Seriously?
So just to get an idea about who Jeffrey Epstein is emailing, this is Jerome Kagan, and he's an American psychologist, was an American psychologist, and an important pioneer in developmental psychology.
What is he now?
I think he's dead.
Oh, good.
I think. So he was the Daniel and Amy Starch research professor at, can you guess what university?
Harvard.
Yep. He was also employed at the New England Complex Systems Institute. I actually had to look up what Daniel and Amy Starch research meant. Basically, it's a title, an endowed chair position at Harvard University that is primarily associated with just two people, him and a cognitive neuroscientist named Alfonso Karamazza. After looking into it and realizing only two people have held this title, I didn't feel so bad about having never heard of this.
I feel like it has something to do with corn.
This title specifically denotes that any research done under this title is focused on child temperament.
I knew it!
Cognitive development and brain-based language processing. Kagan is the guy who connected temperament to biology, hence being considered an important pioneer in the field.
Like, this is the guy who figured out that Red 40 makes little kids like to piss on other kids. That kind of thing.
Basically, there is a biological basis for certain aspects of temperament. This is like the guy that proposed that, followed that, researched it, and like made it a thing. So Epstein seems to be very interested in connecting with Kagan over and over again, especially when it comes to the topic of blonde hair and blue eyes. Epstein asks him about his work regarding blue eyes and intelligence. Kagan's studies weren't so much about intelligence, but rather his studies found that blue-eyed children were more likely to be shy, fearful, timid, and cautious, which he referred to in these studies as inhibited, while brown-eyed children tended to be more bold and outgoing, which he termed uninhibited. I think these studies were done on like kindergarten through grade 4 age kids.
These folks are doing weird race stuff. This is really weird. Like, they had me brainwashed into thinking we killed all the bad guys that thought like this.
Isn't it interesting now they're running the country?
It's a head trip, really.
And they're telling you to kill your neighbor for this type of thought when they're the ones doing it?
Yeah, see, that's intellectually dishonest.
So Kagan found that the same genes which influence neural crest cells, those are the cells that affect both iris pigmentation and nervous system reactivity, might be at the root of why blue-eyed infants often do show higher sensitivity and fearfulness to novelty. While not a hard rule, Kagan did specify that temperament may also be shaped through environment over time, but this was still the focus of his study. From his paper titled Shyness and Olfactory Threshold, he wrote the following.
Quote, hair pigmentation was found to be significantly associated with behavioral inhibition in the sense that blonde children exhibited higher fear scores. As in American samples, blue-eyed children had a higher fear score than did other children, but this difference was not statistically significant. End quote.
Don't redheads have a higher pain tolerance?
I would disagree.
They also have no soul.
Thanks.
You can't say that, Tim. That's wrong to say.
I have 2/3 of a soul.
You also can't say
Okay.
can't say anything. You're banned from saying anything.
I have strawberry blonde hair.
Yeah, Mari's a redhead and I'm blonde, so like,
So you can make blonde jokes. She can make fun of redheads.
yeah.
No, I'm an entire blonde joke in one person. I'm blonde, brunette, and redhead at the same time.
I heard all of the Aryan jokes, all of them.
Yeah, I have blue eyes too, so.
Yeah.
This show would be a tiny bit funnier if we had a Jewish co-host. I'm just saying.
Oh, you're not Jewish? Oh.
Dude, I did the 23andMe Epstein test because I wanted to see if I was a high enough percentage of Jewish so I could visit Israel. Turns out I'm 8% native. That's it. And white. I don't know where the native came from. I didn't know any of that was in there.
Oh, I was going to say, most of us probably have native if you were born here.
I'm actually pretty high native, to be honest.
I'm Euro trash.
Woo!
I'm descended from a Cherokee princess, Tiana.
I was Cleopatra in a past life.
Hey, what a coincidence. Me too.
I was too. Holy f***.
Okay, so basically, this paper, in a nutshell, it shows that statistically speaking, blue-eyed children tend to be a bit more fearful, especially socially, and they tend to be a bit more introverted. So, in a roundabout way, there is a general sentiment being conveyed in Epstein's interest in blue eyes that seems largely to do with sensitivity. Maybe it's because blue-eyed children themselves have higher sensitivities in some ways. Maybe it has to do with light sensitivity and the way in which blue eyes let in light compared to other eye colors. Or perhaps it's both. We know that people with blue eyes tend to have better vision in the dark compared to other eye colors and more problems with light.
Evolved in the snow, right?
This is
Yeah.
yeah, actually that's not entirely incorrect. So like
At the center of the earth, Tim, it's the snow giants.
in a nutshell, it's kind of assumed that that it's a genetic mutation that happened because people who are further north get longer night times during certain times of the year. And so their eyes adapted to see better in the nighttime because there's just more nighttime. That makes sense genetically as an evolution. And people who are in the sun more obviously need to have more light protection from the sun. That also makes sense, right? So people with blue eyes do have a higher likelihood of having eye problems. Just like my dad. He has to have like a needle in his eye every month now because of degenerative problems from blue eyes, I guess. So there isn't actually a blue pigment in the iris for people with blue eyes. So the blue color that you see in blue eyes is actually a result of light reflection. And that's kind of similar to how the sky looks blue. It's because of the way the light reflects. So what this means for how much light gets to the retina and how that correlates to the production of hormones like norepinephrine and cortisol and even melatonin, it's a bit much to explain here. I have included various links for people who are curious, but obviously this was an area of interest for Epstein.
So you're saying this is why so many white kids like emo and why they have to have the one swoop over one eye because their eyes are actually letting in more light.
Yeah, sure, why not?
I feel so attacked right now. You know, I actually do have a pair of glasses that has like a light filter on it because I sometimes would get eye aches from the light. So I feel so attacked. Even in later years, other scientists have re-examined these findings and have concluded that eye colors in humans may be connected to the production of neuromelanin in the central nervous system. If an individual has a low level, I don't know why you're laughing.
Sorry, dude. Can we make a video game called Neuromelanin?
Neuromelanin.
No.
If an individual has a low level of melanin, as well as lighter eye color, both skin and eye color having to do with melanin, this is thought to play a factor in what Kagan called inhibited behavior. But the melanin production is arguably linked to a function of producing the fear hormones, norepinephrine and cortisol, which influence fight or flight, focus, and alertness.
My sister has the gray eye thing, where it's like so blue it's gray.
That's what I have, yeah. Luke's eyes are kind of like blue-green with a few brown speckles. He's got like it's definitely more artistic looking.
According to homeopathy, that's where the cancer is growing. You can tell from the brown spots. And the only way to fix it is by
Hot knife with butter.
Yeah, eating the bark of a cocker spaniel or something. I don't know.
This is very bad advice. Don't listen to it. Okay, so Kagan associated low levels of melanin, as you see in blue eyes, blonde hair, or pale-skinned individuals, with high levels of arousal in the limbic system and hypothalamus. So for anyone out there that is really into parapsychology, you're probably familiar with how important the limbic system is in psi phenomena, especially the hippocampus and the amygdala, which has to do with fear. The limbic system's threat detector and emotional translator as well, and the involvement of these in extrasensory perception and psychokinesis. So these are both, like, the limbic system is very important for this. So I've included a couple of Kagan's papers in the show notes, but that's kind of the gist of it. The blue eyes and blonde hair thing seemed to be very important to Epstein, and as some emails detail, he was also blue-eyed and 98% Ashkenazi Jewish, at least as far as he claimed. He seemed obsessed with doing studies regarding blue eyes and intelligence, even going so far as to have someone compose a list for him specifying the eye colors of the scientists that were invited to the conferences that he funded.
Weird. Quote, how many people on the smart list have blue eyes? Please calculate and highlight each. End
Bro,
quote.
we're not just bringing this up to be funny. Like, what is this? Like, tell me who
He's a
on the
Nazi.
guest list who has blue f***ing eyes. Like, what?
I actually posted it. I posted this list so you can see for yourself who it was he was scoping.
They're out of their f***ing minds.
He's a real Nazi.
But how does
He's
that
not
make
the- I don't
sense? He's
like- I don't
Jewish.
well, it doesn't matter, obviously, because it's the ideology that makes one a Nazi. He's not,
you know-
he's not like the, I don't like your political opinion, you're a Nazi. He's like, no, I'm a fucking Nazi kind of Nazi.
Maybe we should look for a word that describes the evil behind what people mean when they say Nazi. You know what I mean? I think totalitarianist is maybe a less loaded phrase.
Yeah, because you can't just say, like, oh, well, he's Ashkenazi, because obviously not all Ashkenazi are like this.
No!
And it's also not quite the exact same ideology, although it's definitely just as evil, and it seems like it's being pursued in the same fashion as the actual Nazis from World War II. So we kind of land in this, like, well, we don't really have a word for it, aside from evil. So another email titled 92nd Street Y Potential List, probably meaning Y chromosome, as in the paternal germline. This email with this title appears to be that exact list of all the smart people and their eye colors. I've included it in the show notes. It lists Elon Musk, Freeman Dyson, George Church, George Whitesides, Martin Nowak, Murray Gell-Mann, Peter Thiel, Larry Summers, Seth Lloyd, Marvin Minsky, Bill Gates, Danny Hillis, and many others. There's actually like 50 total. It seems to be right in line with Epstein's idea of modeling his baby ranch after the Nobel laureate sperm bank that we mentioned. And I'm not saying that they participated by default, but I am looking at the files and connecting the dots here, and it looks really weird. As an organic pattern recognition machine, I just think it looks fishy.
Well, what? Like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel showing up to parties where the people throwing the parties, keeping track of their eye color. Okay, got it.
Isn't that maybe also kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'm out of line here, but I heard that he's kind of into like hooking up with chicks and just getting them to have his baby. Isn't that kind of Elon's thing?
Oh, you're right. That does seem to happen, doesn't it?
I mean, isn't it?
Yeah, he
his thing?
totally does that.
See, this is why if I hear some utterly bananas shit about like Peter Thiel and that like clavicular guy, it might be true. You never know what these people are up to. It's just...
Here's the thing. It's hard to know if these people that are all up in the files, if they do actually share the same ideologies unless they've outed themselves as actually sharing it. Because I'm sure there's quite a few people that got part of it and were like, oh, that sounds great. And then they didn't get the Nazi memo.
No,
I think there should be investigations.
Epstein knew he was compartmentalizing all these people, and he knew a lot of his friends were Jewish, so I think he knew a lot of his friends were probably not down with Nazis or Nazism. But, like, when you're cutting open somebody on the sacrificial altar, you look over them and you're like, you know.
How did I get here?
You ever notice that those people with blue eyes are the smarter ones? You ever notice that?
You're like, it's like, how could you say it?
You know that song, How Did I Get Here? This is not my beautiful wife. This is...
Oh.
Let's get back to eating this baby. Quit talking politics,
my
Epstein.
God.
I'm trying to eat this.
I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun.
We only have so much time. You're going to waste it talking about politics.
In an email correspondence from February 8, 2016, with Noam Chomsky, Epstein sends Chomsky a link to an article called Race and IQ, Genes That Predict Racial Intelligence Differences. So this link was dead, but I managed to find it and very quickly realized that it's an article from a blog called The Right Stuff, or TRS, which is a white supremacist blog that frequently promotes race realism, pseudoscientific belief in genetic racial hierarchies. So Epstein is sending this link to the article to Chomsky, and Chomsky responds,
As for explanation, the likelihood, I think, is what I outlined. Say the likely different outcomes for a kid like me and a counterpart in a family in Philly that is part of a group that for 400 years had a chance for about 2 or 3 decades to enter mainstream society, and then with the constant legacy of miserable racism.
sorry to interrupt. So this 400 years that he's talking about is specifically in reference to the Ashkenazi lineage.
There were a few families that escaped the legacy, Thurgood Marshall, Condoleezza Rice, etc., but it's not surprising under the circumstances that few did. And simply as a matter of biology, the capacities involved are so deeply embedded that it would be quite surprising if an evolutionarily brief period that had produced only superficial changes would have affected them. But in any event, I don't see the importance, except on ugly assumptions, any more than it would be important to show that tall people with blue eyes on average do better or worse in answering questions on tests, unquote.
So it sounds like Chomsky's like, I'm not down. I'm not down with your weird racist Nazi thing. Can we just please eat the baby now?
Epstein adds, quote, I am aware of the potential for abuse. However, imagine that a set of genes used for working memory, like the ones for Tay-Sachs, could be found and adjusted. Not looking seems cruel. End quote.
So as I brought up last episode, Tay-Sachs is one of the diseases that Ashkenazim are most prone to.
So then Chomsky responds, quote, almost inconceivable, but if it could be done, I think there would be far more important uses, like changing the genes for dedicated savagery and lack of concern for the welfare or even security of the population on the part of the sector of educated elite that reaches positions of power, unquote.
Epstein quips, quote, agreed, genetic altruism. End quote.
It almost seems like Chomsky is trying to say, hey, I see you there. I know what you're doing. But Epstein's committed to the disguise.
Yeah.
Like being an intellectual, yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, agreed. Genetic altruism, of course. Coming back to the research that Epstein combined through various fields and programs, Epstein and those closest to him, at least to some degree, masked these branching areas of interest as being founded in scientific philanthropy, and not honestly as the eugenic ambitions that they were. This included the following.
Epstein took great interest in Stephen Koslin's experimental study of not just blue eyes, but the purported special abilities of Tibetan Buddhist monks. Koslin's account of the study is detailed in Landon Thomas Jr.'s 2002 article in The New Yorker titled Jeffrey Epstein, International Money Man of Mystery.
Quote, Epstein flew up to Koslin's laboratory in Cambridge this year to witness an experiment that Koslin was conducting, and Epstein was funding. Namely, is it true that Tibetan monks are capable of holding a distinct mental image in their minds for 20 minutes straight?
Quote, We disproved the thesis, unquote.
Says Costlin, twirls mustache evilly.
Quote, Jeff was on his cell phone most of the time. He actually wanted to short the Tibetan market because he thought the monk was so stupid. He is amazing, like a honeybee. He talks to all these different people and cross-pollinates. Just 2 months ago, I was talking to him about a new alternative to evolutionary psychology. He got excited and sent me a check, unquote.
He wanted to short.
I don't even, what does he mean by Tibetan market?
Idiots.
Like, does he mean economically?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Costlin's like, he wants to do a whole racism just because he didn't like this one monk. Isn't that cool? It's like, what? What are you talking?
So cool, he's like a honeybee.
People are out of your fucking minds. Hey, but if you'd like to hear more about the ruling class and what the heck they're getting up to here behind the scenes,
Evil
You're paying taxes to these people and following their laws.
buying the product.
then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 not only gets you the extended full-length version of this episode, you'll get the extended full-length version of every single one of our episodes, which in like 2 months will be 7 years old. Yay. That's
Wow.
how long it took us to go from Epstein dying, supposedly, to getting the answers. And here we are. It's actually worse than I thought it was. And we're going to talk about it here in the second half. And I like making jokes because it helps me. It helps me because I'm fucking traumatized. This stuff's actually kind of scary.
PsyOps are a product that people buy too.
What? Where can I buy them? Like you can buy them like Pokemon cards and trade them like in a binder at lunch. at
No,
recess.
dude, Magic the Gathering. Screw Pokemon.
I grew up in Lompoc. We had Pokemon cards, okay?
I just want people to go down the rabbit hole with us.
If you don't, I'll drag you down in astral demons in your dreams.
And then you'll be forced to eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew, pew, pew.
Pew.